You've spent your fair share of time in this room the past 3 days. Tom, we will begin with a invocation by Pastor Reidenbach from Mountain View Baptist, and then our Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Troop 1860.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we love you. Thank you for this evening and this time set aside for business. Thank you, God, for the wisdom that you give each one of us. And Father, I just come and thank you for your loving kindness. I think of the beautiful place we live, the rain, the sunshine. And Lord, it's so wonderful that we can come before you with thanksgiving in a free society. Thank you for it. Give wisdom tonight, direction, grace, and Lord, continue to watch over our city. And we just thank you for it. Thank you for the freedom, even we're expressing right now, the freedom to pray. And what a blessing. I thank you for it. Bless now in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Will the audience please arise? Please follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you both for our invocation and for leading the pledge. We will now move to our agenda order approval. There are a few items that need to be altered.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with the removal of the Youth Volunteer Corps that couldn't be here tonight. We'll reschedule them. And also to move items number 8 and 9 on the consent agenda down to the action agenda.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. We will now move on to council business. If there is any.
See.
It's the little black book. You know, when people have a little black book, it's always had a different connotation.
Yeah.
It does.
Mine isn't near as exciting as it used to be when I was younger.
While he's looking for his notes, I just wanted to make note of the last 2 days. That's a laborious process, but I think a very effective one. And I don't know if everybody's aware of all that we do or has been done the last 2 days. We've had 2 separate 4-hour afternoon sessions on budget matters, and all of the departments of the city have come to us and helped us understand their budget proposals for the coming year. Just a very enlightening process, and I think quite effective. So just wanted to share that with whoever wasn't aware of that.
Yes.
I wanted to say that on Monday about 12:50 p.m., actually a historic event in the history of Iron County, in that probably since Lake Bonneville drained, it's the first time that Coal Creek water has been captured so near Quichapa and put back out into our percolation system. So just to let folks know that although it has some hiccups in it, our new plan to capture that water before it's wasted in Quichapa is moving forward. Greatly in part to Mr. Cousins, who is dressed in such a way because he's going to go out and run a bulldozer as soon as we're done here tonight. But just commendations to the Public Works and all the other people. This is really a historical thing since the pioneers came here, that this water will be recaptured and available for us to drink.
And we almost convinced you to drink it the other as it was coming out of the pipe. We were close.
Fred water.
Almost that clear.
Yeah, I was gonna.
That entry point.
So it's been an interesting day and night. Been out west a lot of the day today, and that's why I'm not dressed up. But we've been used to getting about 3 to 5 to 10 cubic feet per second out to Quichapa, and we've been getting over 100 last night and today. So our system,
It's a raging torrent.
It is. We're having to manage it manually until we get our weir. Our weir company is not making us very happy. So they're
A weir
waiting
is
on.
a controlled.
A
Yeah, I was
weir
gonna
is a
say, will
metal
you-
gate.
yeah.
A weir is a metal gate that's going to control, our structure's in place. We're waiting for this company in California to keep their promise and get it to us. About 10:30 last night, we dug another spillway to take the excess water out so it wouldn't break our dam, and it's been interesting. Paul?
So the water that came down last night in the rainstorm, is that something that could get cleaned up in that system and able to recharge, or was that too mucky, or?
It's, well, yes, I mean, yeah, I mean, that kind of storm would be too much, probably. But what happens is that weir, the metal gate, is about 3 feet higher than our outlet going to our recharge basin.
Right.
So, and it backs all the way up the channel. That's such flat area out there that water backs up and it's a lot of volume. So if we get a flash flood, it'll hold a lot of that water. The silt will drop out of the water, and then the top 2 or 3 feet will exit out of our overflow.
So we capture some.
So we
Yeah.
capture some of it. We could capture a lot of it, but these kind of storms, they're just crazy.
And then when it fills up with too much silt, we drop the gate all the way during a storm and it will wash all of that out.
It'll just sluice that silt down the
Goes to Quichapa where it's not doing
Quichapa.
anything.
But even this, as silty as it is, can be reclaimed to a degree.
So we had a few little hiccups with all the water, even though we dug a spillway, moving some of that out. We still had a few breaches in some areas, but our main lazy river structure's holding up great. We appreciate Jeff Hunter and his crew for coming out. When was it? Yesterday? And was it yesterday?
Monday.
Monday.
It's all blending
Yes.
together.
So Monday they came out, and Jeff is so busy and so behind. I really appreciate him coming out and helping us with the project to repair some things. But it's been good to have water in our system. We knew we was going to have some hiccups, and we've repaired them, and we learned from them. And it's going to be good. One thing I wanted to mention, I talked to Phil Smith, who I greatly appreciate. Yesterday, actually it was Monday afternoon. He was afraid that our recharge basin wasn't quite deep enough because the water would just go down and pile up. And so I asked him if Wheeler Machinery had a dozer that we could get for a reasonable cost. They're about $2,500 a day to rent them. And he called Wheeler, and they donated it for 2 days. So that's about $5,000 worth of machinery. And so we're using that, running it quite a bit to get all we can out of it.
Which is why Schmidt's guy's quitting, and then this guy's going to take over, and scares me, but
Yeah.
no. He's been driving one since he was 8.
But anyway, we'll have that done tonight. They've got one pump going. They'll have the other one going and program tomorrow, and we'll be recharging water in the morning.
The main dam area that was soggy, is that what, how was that, how did it hold with last night?
Looks
Good.
great.
Yeah, it's right up the edge. It's all-
Perfect.
all good.
But yeah, from the color the water comes in to when we tried to get Fred to drink it, night and day different. Starts
Well,
out
it's lazy
red.
river. If you go at 56, there's 5 channels. The water goes in and it meanders around really slow. And as it does so, it drops the silt out. So it comes in really dirty. And at the end where it goes into our recharge, it clears this water. It's beautiful. It's working great.
Uh-huh.
Can I ask just one question? On that dozer, like, is it donated to the city for the use? And is there any liability with you out there, like operating that?
He is a
You could just bury me if I'm.
If something
I have a problem.
happens?
We're just going to put him in the
No.
recharge.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just wondering as far as,
Don't know. I haven't thought about that. We're just getting it done. It's
any opinion on
I don't know.
that, Tyler?
There's
it's
always,
a district project, so I mean,
Yeah, that's
I'm
what
a
I
board
wondered
member
if
of the
it would,
district. I don't know. I mean, it's
yeah.
the chances of getting hurt doing that in that application is pretty slim.
Okay,
there's always going to be liability in whatever we do. This would be something that would, but
The district's probably covered under the Volunteer Act, just like we are.
okay,
If one of our volunteers gets hurt doing whatever they're volunteering for, we cover them under our workers' comp policies. I think it's the same thing for the district.
okay.
But, so with that, is there any other council business?
I brought up to Mr. Bittman today. As I was backing out a couple of days ago in this parking garage, it struck me that, here we go again, but I think if we even dedicated a few of those parking levels to angled parking, it would just be ever so much easier to get in and out of that parking structure, because it's such tight conditions. When people go in, they have to do about three turns. They could go in and just hit that angle, then back out and keep going. We're going to restripe it anyway. Just paint the new stripes yellow and let people figure it out from there.
Could we have engineering look at that from a couple of perspectives? I don't know if we
You
can
might
angle park.
you might lose one spot because of the poles, but unless you could you cheat one of the cars, the front end of one car into that, the opening of the next one, maybe lay that out. See.
Anyway, just something to look
We'll
at.
have engineering.
Not even necessarily all the spaces, but at least those long corridors, just make them so when you're coming in there, if you're going the same way the arrow says you're supposed to be going, which is a plus, you can pull right in and back right out and continue on your way.
Not just spot loss, but to make sure that the aisle width is wide enough.
Yeah.
Because they put the perpendicular parking in. I'm assuming that they had an engineer that did that, measured aisle widths and stuff. So if we change it to angle, just let us look at it.
Just have a look.
Yeah.
Is there anything else?
Look over at Lynn's. When we changed all that.
I just want to say thank you to all of our council for really, truly enduring the past 2 days of nonstop budget meetings.
It was that jar of chocolate, Mayor.
Hey, there's
Carried us through.
always jars of chocolate in my office. That is how you survive this. Then we will move on to staff comments, and we will start with Jeremy.
Good evening, council, staff. Jeremy Valgartson representing the Employee Advisory Committee today. Danny, you come up. Danny was nominated as our Employee of the Month for May. So Danny's nomination came from Cameron Christensen. Right before we left, we made him give us to us. He said, Danny has been in the Economic Development Department for almost 6 years. In his tenure, Danny has successfully negotiated contracts with several solar companies and helped with the expansion of several other businesses, including but not limited to Mueller Industries, Charlotte Pipe, and Deco Works. Danny's attitude towards his companies, city staff, and the public is very gracious and pleasing. Danny's hard work and go-getting attitude allows for an easy bridge to be built between the city and other organizations around the city and county, example DWS, Chamber of Commerce, BRC, and many others. Danny understands the role of economic development and works very hard to make Cedar City a great place to work, play, and live for tourists and citizens alike. So on behalf of the EAC, I want to thank Danny for his dedication and commitment to the city, and we've got a little certificate and some goodies for him.
Okay, now, are there any other staff comments? Yes.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and staff. Darren Adams, Police Department. Just to follow up to last week, if you recall, Mr. Cohen came in with concerns about the speed on 1150 West, and I did send an email out. I hope you all got it. The officers were out there various times on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And granted, it may not be as accurate as his study where we've seen the college kids perhaps move back home, but 70% of the traffic that they measured were 25 or below. 28% were 26 to 31, and then 2% were above the 30 mark. So we'll continue to watch that and do what we
That
can to
generally
address it.
comports with what percentages, I mean, not quite, but pretty close to what
yeah.
he
Like
is.
85% was 30 and below.
I think it was 83. His study showed 83, right? So,
Yeah.
and then Councilmember Rowley called yesterday with some concern about the perceived increase in accidents at Airport Road and 200 North. We did some studies on those. We had 4 of those in that intersection between July 1 and December of last year, and then just 3 this year, although 1 in April and then 2 in May, 2 days apart.
So that's why it seems like there's
Right.
a lot more going on.
Right. But surprisingly, the predominant cause is someone traveling east, wanting to turn left or north down Airport Road. They pull in front of oncoming traffic, which is surprising. But that is out of those 7, 5 of the 7 were that cause. So it'll take some enforcement action on our part. to maybe
Well, and so
educate.
I too wondered, you get a little desperate there sometimes.
Right.
And I wondered, Kit, if maybe once again we could contact UDOT for the possibility of some turn signals there, turn lights.
I've already contacted them on that. We had a meeting with them a couple weeks ago and said they'd look at that and see.
Super.
Okay.
Chief, did you use that software, that UDOT software that tracks the accidents?
No, that comes from our software, from the accident reports. That the data that I displayed yesterday, I pulled that from that. So it'll show when an officer does an accident and does that report. That all goes
So you
in.
said there was 3 this year and 3 last year?
4 last year between July and December,
Okay.
and then 3 this year.
Since January to May.
Correct. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Yes.
Mayor and Council, Brian Dangerfield, Leisure Services. Last week, a concern was raised about gnats around the lakes at the hills, and I spoke with Chad Reed from the Utah State Extension. He says anybody that's experiencing that problem around the lake, we need to, if they could, capture some of the gnats and bring them into the extension, because they can't fight a problem until they know what it is. The gnats that we identified that are at the aquatic center are called fungal gnats, and you attack them differently than others. So if citizens could please do that, take them to the extension, and then we could try to come up with some type of solution. He says that it should be a temporary thing, but if it continues, then of course we need to stay on top of it.
Were we working on those aeration, that aeration
Water,
system?
Department's working on getting those fixed. They've got the equipment in and getting it installed. That's probably part of the problem up there, especially with the algae growth, that aeration system has not been operating for.
So I see a chance for a new festival, a gnat catching festival, a fungal gnat catching festival.
Are you going to spearhead that?
Well, I'm busy.
He's making things sparkle right now.
Thank you for the follow-up on that. Are there any other staff comments?
I'm still trying to catch a cat.
Catch his cat.
Okay, we're moving. With that, we're just going to keep going. Okay, we will move to our public agenda with our public comment and our audit report. Yes. Ready or not?
This way of everything.
So for all the students in the back of the room, you should tell your teacher you get extra credit because you had to sit through an audit report.
I'm not sure how I'm going to take that remark.
Any way you want.
With all of the love that it was
Professionally, this is
intended.
compelling stuff.
I actually have students begging to come to these.
You do?
Yeah,
Wow.
in my auditing class. They want to see how it really goes.
You're the teacher though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We appreciate being here. I'm Todd Hess with Hinton Burdick CPAs and Advisors. I have here with me Kelly Jones, who is the in-charge auditor for the fieldwork portion of the city audit. She's the one that is here on site most of the time with our staff. We're here to present the audited financial statements and auditor's report for the city for the fiscal year ended June 30, 2016. We don't want to take a whole lot of time on this and didn't bring any charts or graphs or anything. We do want to just report, though, that the city received a clean audit opinion again this year, unmodified. In other words, in our opinion, the financial statements that you have before you, and hopefully you've had an electronic copy of maybe before now. I know we sent them to Jason, are fairly presented in all material respects in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles, governmental GAAP there. There is a good summary of the information beginning on page 5, titled Management's Discussion and Analysis. I would recommend that you at least read through that. Provides good summary information of those financial statements. And then there's, you'll have the statements and footnotes after that. I don't know if there were any significant accounting issues or changes this year in the financial statements. So I think everything's pretty much the same as it has been. You'll also find our findings report on page, let's see, 93. That's our findings and recommendations. And the city's or management's responses to those findings on page 97. Those are some things that you'll want to pay attention to and that management is working on correcting there. We also sent some minor recommendations in a separate letter to Jason and Paul for their attention, just some things that didn't rise to the level of findings that we needed to report in the financial statements, but that we wanted to let management know of. We discussed those with them the other day, and corrections are being made there, or, if they didn't feel a correction needed to be made, then that was fine too. They were able to explain stuff to us. So that's really what we have. If there are any questions, we're glad to answer any questions for you. I know if this is the first time you're looking at these, it doesn't give you a whole lot of time to look at them.
No material weaknesses and the deficiencies are included in here on page 93 through the end.
Yes. Yeah, there was just the one significant deficiency, and that's just due to several journal entries that we found that needed corrections that we needed to be made, that we found that needed to be made, mostly reclassifying items from one account category to another. A couple things that we found that weren't recorded, but nothing too major there.
Okay.
I lie awake at night worrying about Tom Jett, and this is going to help solve that problem. I can just
Read that and he goes off. That's probably right.
You get a lot of auditor jokes.
Oh, yeah. I know a few too.
Does the council have any questions or anything?
We'll just have to
good work,
read
Jason.
through.
Yeah, after we have some time to look at it.
We are available for questions anytime. Please call or email either myself or Kelly. Kelly's probably the one that'll know the details. I can answer questions as well.
So he does all the work. He takes all the credit. Is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty much how it works.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank
You're
you
welcome.
so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Now I need to get back to my agenda.
Wow, that's it.
We
That's a
will
piece of work.
now have if there's anyone else that would like to address the city council, now is your opportunity. Is there anyone? Wow, seeing no one, we will move on with our business agenda, our public portion first. The consent agenda, approval of minutes dated April 19th and 26th, 2017. Approval of bills dated May 4th, 2017. Approved project determined to be applied for in the CDBG Small City Program in program year 2017. Approve a single event permit for the Alex Horseshoe Tournament to be held June 10th, 2017. Approve the disposal of city property located south of Home Depot for the VA Cemetery. Approve entering a right of first refusal agreement with Lee Grims concerning water rights he's attempting to purchase. Approve declaring city vehicles as surplus property. Are there any questions, comments, concerns related to any of those items? Yes.
You got more on
For
the back.
You got number 8. Did you read 8?
8 and 9.
8 and 9 are going to.
Oh, I lied. Yeah, sorry. I
It's number
missed that
10.
one. Approve reopening the public bidding for the parcel located west of AmeriGas. Sorry about that.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now we will go to item number 8. So we'll now move to our action agenda with item number 8. Approve selection of CRSA as the animal shelter architect.
I've kind of sent you some information out this last week. There's some. None of them working. Anyhow, last week we had some questions on fees and things like that, and so I've sent you some information out concerning what the fees were for other city building projects in the last 10, 15 years. And hopefully that was able to answer some of those questions. I've also asked a representative from the architect, the recommended architect to be here tonight, Benjamin Rogers. He's in the audience and here to answer any questions, and maybe he just wants to kind of stand up and tell the council about yourself and your company and kind of your experience on these animal shelter type projects.
Good evening. I'm Ben Rogers with CRSA. CRSA is a firm that's been in Utah for 45 years. We've been working in southern Utah for 40 years. Our office has been here full time for 10. And we've been doing a lot of work with Iron County, Garfield County, SUU, Dixie State, Washington County. And it's an honor to be considered as the architect for the shelter. We are a firm specializing originally in historic preservation. About 20 years ago, we diversified and went into a lot of higher education, government civic work, acknowledging that, as one of our clients told me once, she believes that architects think that they can do everything. We have a philosophy that we're not good at everything. We're good at a lot of things, and we bring in specialists to add to our team to bolster our abilities to perform to our clients' needs. In this case, we've hired one of the national leading architects out of Texas, Shelter Planners Association of America, that we're working with currently on Washington County Shelter with Sheriff Pulsifer and commissioners there. That's been in the planning for about a year now. And Mike Barnard from SPOA came up and met with us and met with the county. We toured the shelters. We did a survey. We answered questionnaires, about 100 questionnaires, to help the county determine the size, appropriate scale of the building. And that's what we propose to do with Cedar City, is to sit down. We have a 100-point questionnaire that we'll start with to really help you understand what the numbers mean and what the numbers say the size of the shelter needs to be. And then as a committee, you can take that and determine, what direction do we want to go. Washington County chose to reduce theirs by 30% based on the numbers. So that's it's an honor to be here. I can answer any questions if you have them. I'm happy to.
Does the council have questions?
How much time will you get from I think his name is Barnhart?
Mike Barnard.
Yeah.
He and I will be spending, as far as the beginning project schematic design, he and I will be spending as far as 100%. He and I will both be on this about 40%. I have a project manager that will be helping with some drawings. But Mike and I will be spending a majority of our time in initial plannings and design of this project.
He was the one when I looked at the proposal. It has just dynamite credentials.
Fantastic history as an architect, and he's been with SPOA for about 15 years and has done a phenomenal amount of planning and design in shelters across America.
I suppose my overarching concern is that this not turn into a Taj Mahal. It's a utilitarian building. It should probably be nice looking when people come in, but it doesn't need to have,
I've been in
you're taking a year to design a animal shelter. I know there's some laws and stuff, but that just sounds like maybe.
Some architects have a reputation of building monuments to themselves.
Yeah.
I've been in southern Utah long enough to know that we like stucco boxes.
There you go. All right.
Yes. As we go through it, we'll ensure that it's not over the top.
Thank you.
Are there other questions from the council related to this?
Move to approve CRSA as the architects for the animal shelter.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay,
Thanks.
item number 9. All of the names listed on the agenda were the individuals that we read last time. The only change from those ones is Steve Dodds his term is up on the Board of Adjustments, and instead it will be Phil Schmidt is the recommended name. And then in addition to those names, I told you last time that there was a few others we were waiting to hear back from. With the airport, it's Vaughn Montgomery. Cross Hollows Event Center, Jesse Wood. Rap Tax Arts, Linda Benson and Neil Smith. Rap Tax Park and Rec, Chad Westwood. And then the Downtown Parking Authority, reappoint Evan Vickers and Dan Dodson. Do you have any questions or comments related to any of our the new committee recommendations?
Move to approve the committee appointments.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, there's that one. All right. Item number 11, consider entering an agreement with Iron County and granting them credit towards impact fees on property located at 55 and 67 North, 200 East.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh. Item number 12, consider continued participation in the Utah League of Cities and Towns.
Mayor, over the last week, I've thought some on this, and the thing that comes to my mind is if you take it to its logical conclusion, people pay taxes. The money we receive is basically received at gunpoint. Literally, if someone does not pay their taxes, a man with a gun comes to their house and escorts them from the property. So I feel that very often, a sacred responsibility with these people's money. I think that we need to be careful stewards. In the last couple of days, as we've done the budget, we saw a lot of things that were declined, requests by our people. They were declined because there was not enough money. We will never have enough money, obviously, but there were some very worthwhile and worthy requests that were denied due to the lack of the funding. I'm proposing that I had suggested earlier 2 years, I'm proposing let's just try 1 year without Utah League to do 2 things. First, to say to them, we do not wink at misappropriation of funds. We know that the people who are responsible for that have been terminated, but just to get the idea across that we're serious about our people's money, that we withhold it for that reason. Secondly, I've learned that a big part of the discussion last week was the great training that Utah League provides. We know that Mr. Bittman can provide that 4 hours every 2 years, not that big of a burden on him and Tyler. But I've also learned that anybody, anywhere, can go to a Utah League convention anytime they want. They pay $80 more than a member would pay. So all of the training that is valuable to those who want it, there's an $80 additional fee, but we still avoid that $16,000 dues.
So that would be, so if we did one a year, each of us, that'd be what?
Yeah.
$800, right?
It's about $400 to go to the fall thing, and then you would add on the
Did it
80.
twice, it'd be about
Yeah.
800 versus 60.
Yeah. So with that, I make a motion that, that we suspend our membership in Utah League
Can
for
we
the
have-
period of a year.
Before you make.
Yeah,
the motion,
I'm making the motion because I'm just talking, but now we don't have to second it or do anything until you guys have had a chance
So-
to talk.
But we do have his motion out there,
Yes.
so there can be
just,
we do kind
I
of need to
guess we
see
could have a
if
second,
there,
then a discussion.
or you can just
Then we
hold
have
back
to
your
vote.
motion for a second and let's see if there's other discussion. So we can do,
I'll withdraw my motion
Okay,
until we've had
perfect.
discussion. That'll work.
that'll be easier.
Thank you.
yeah, I think the focus on training is missing the point, and we can, that's a very controllable cost, as you've made the point. We don't have to go every time, and like I mentioned in the meeting last week, it was very helpful to me, but we don't have to go to every one of their training events. I don't think that's the issue. I think the real issue is participating with other cities and towns and being part of a group that fights for governance at our level, at the city level. I don't want to be overrun by the state any more than I want to be overrun by the federal government. We should have the right to govern ourselves at the city level. And I think one of the great services that the League of Cities and Towns provides is a syndicate, a collection of cities and towns that have voice up at the legislature and really help to run interference for us. I take this House Bill 115 as a case in point. The state is trying to impose a fee structure for use of landfills. That would impact us and every citizen in this state. And I don't think we can call upon our employees to leave their day-to-day duties to go try and pull support together to help fight that kind of an approach by the state. I don't want the state to take that responsibility. I want to govern that locally. I think when it comes to Airbnb, that's not an issue for us right now, but it certainly is down south in St. George and other places. And once again, I don't think the state should impose that. And I think the Utah League of Cities and Towns provides a very valuable service fighting those battles for us. And as we heard from our elected officials, Representative Westwood and Senator Vickers last week, they provide very, very important input to them to help them vote logically on things that will impact us here on the ground in our city. So one more point, and a quick one. I wouldn't want to abandon every other city and town in Utah for mistakes made by two people that have since been rectified and since been stabilized. The breaches in internal control have been overcome, and they are running things. They were the ones that sought the audit, by the way.
Yep.
The governing board of the Utah League of Cities and Towns sought the audit. They've responded to that audit, and I don't believe it's a misuse of funds for us to continue to support the league and to be in support of our fellow cities around the state. That's my feeling on it.
Well, I have a question on that, a couple points. Let's take the Airbnb issue. It was stated yet last week that the ULCT didn't get involved in Airbnb. That's not accurate. They do. They have been pushing for control of Airbnb. So let's just say, for instance, St. George, who is a bigger member, they receive benefits by holding the convention down there in their conference center. So they benefit monetarily as a city. So I would think they might be a little biased, but so let's just say on the Airbnb issue, say we don't want to touch that with 10-foot pole, which I don't. Mm-hmm. And let's say they do, but yet ULCT is lobbying to control Airbnb. Then you have a group that you're paying money to lobby against what you want. And that can happen because you've got cities that are large cities that pay more in dues. And I would suspect that they're going to protect those that are paying the most dues. I would suspect that would happen. So,
but aren't they lobbying for the cities to have control of it that for
Yeah,
the, not for
They're
the
pushing-
state.
They're pushing for control, and
Well, the league doesn't take control. They push for the local authorities to have control. And so then it puts it back to us where it's not a
Rather
state
than being a state
mandated.
bill,
Yeah.
state
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah,
Well,
it should
That's the
be,
way I
that should be
understood it,
governed
'cause it
on a
should be
city by
here.
city basis.
I'm just using that example, but sometimes you're not going to always have, I'm just using that as an example, but you're going to have sometimes when they're lobbying for certain issues that are oppose what you believe in, and as a city, maybe it's going to affect you differently. And so you're not always going to have them on your team, and you're paying them money to lobby for you. All Fred's saying is let's pull out of the agreement for 1 year and say this isn't acceptable. I mean, you had a board. You had a board of you have 4 directors and 12 members of this board for 4 years that let this stuff slide. I mean, buying liquor at the liquor store, women's lingerie, parking tickets, payroll fines of $9,000, gross negligence for 4 years. How does a board? It's a ceremonial board, and they're very busy people. But how do you? I sit on 3 boards. We go over the financials every time we meet. That's the first item on the agenda. I can't imagine how they now, and maybe they have rectified it, but for 4 years it was gross malfeasance, and then all of a sudden, after they get audited or caught, and then all of a sudden,
No,
1
wait a
month
minute.
later,
I don't agree with that. I don't agree with
Let me
that.
talk,
They weren't
Fred.
caught.
Fred,
Hey,
They
time
weren't
out.
caught.
We're
Let
let
me talk.
one person talk at a time.
But use proper terminology. They didn't get caught. They asked for the audit.
Okay. So they, and then they for 4 years, and then all of a sudden, miraculously, 1 month later, they say we're cured. We fixed everything. Well, I say we give them some time and make sure before we give them $16,000 of our hard-earned taxpayers' dollars.
Can I speak to that a little bit? I've spent a considerable amount of time this week, and actually last week had called Steve Hyatt, that he's the mayor of Kaysville and he's the current president of the league, to get the details on there. And the one thing that he told me, they had not updated their policies. They were very lax. He's been on the board for all of this period of time. So he said, I'm at fault too. We had a trusted director. We had not updated the policy since 2006. They didn't have a credit card policy at all. And it was the culture there. It was very acceptable. All of the board that had cards was using it for whatever they wanted to, as long as they paid it back to the league. And that was the culture. It's bad, but that's the way it was. So those charges that you saw, basically what it come down to is Ken Bullock, that had been there for 30 years, he was lax in his oversight, and he gave a lot of his duties to the CFO, whom he trusted. She actually stole the money. Ken has paid back everything that he owed, and that they discovered that he hadn't paid back was Michelle's fault, that she wasn't doing the record keeping, she wasn't filing reports. That's where all of this. Actually, I believe he was. And
So Terry, let me ask you this question.
now he's not innocent because he was responsible, and that's why he resigned.
So he was charging money on a government credit or that entity's credit card to fly back east and watch his son play
That was
basketball.
acceptable culture in that organization. All of the other people were using them
6
also.
months later, you go through the statements and try to piece together the invoices you charged on that credit card traveling back east to see your son play basketball, and then try to figure out what you owe this.
Well,
So
no,
that's like
on a monthly basis, Michelle was
I like
supposed,
that kind of banking system.
yeah, Michelle was supposed to be telling him what he owed, and he was reimbursing as she told him.
That's not appropriate.
It's not
That would be like
appropriate.
me having a city
It's
credit card
not.
and using it to travel around the country and then having somebody else figure out what I owe the city.
No, it's not appropriate. I'm not excusing it at all. And that's why when the audit come out, he resigned, because he was ultimately responsible for what had and hadn't happened. I am perfectly confident in going through all of their information. They've instituted new policies and procedures.
So can't we give it a year to make sure that happens? We can't
No,
know if
I
they've actually implemented and are clean until we see some track record.
I believe they're kind of operating under a microscope. And and one other thing that confirms that I was going to mention, the audit recommendation actually recommended that they send the report to the Salt Lake County Attorney's Office to look at misuse of public funds in Michelle's case, but not Ken's. They said his was not, and they recommended it was not intentional, and he had paid it all back and it wasn't intentional. So that kind of confirms to me that
So
the
he paid
people
back
that are
the
close to
11,000
there,
as well, where you
yes,
Mhm.
yes.
Yeah, he did.
After he
When-
got caught,
Well, I wouldn't say he got caught either.
do you think it would have continued? You think that culture would have continued had they not done the audit?
Probably.
So it was Ken and the CFO that got caught, not necessarily,
The
Michelle.
board or
Yeah,
Michelle.
Yeah.
was-
And-
Michelle
I think
And
they need
so
to
I-
redo their whole structure and get a new board. because
They have.
They've
They've
replaced the whole board.
They haven't replaced the board, but they've restructured. I mean, I had forwarded to you guys too. They sent the new policies and procedures. They had put a lot of stuff. I spent about 3 hours last night reading everything. They have put a lot. That issue with the trust fund has been resolved. They've put all that money back into the league's money.
That's the
After,
trust fund that the board didn't ever know about.
right.
Right.
Okay. Concerning this bill that you mentioned, I was talking to Bruce Anderson today, the landfill guy. That bill is already passed. What Bruce invited them down here to explain to him that it's apparently an annual thing. So he invited them down here to just show him what the differences are with this year's.
No, he
ruling.
invited who down? The league had
No,
nothing to do with
not
that
the
bill.
league. No,
The league
no,
had
the
nothing
league
to do
had,
with that
he
bill.
invited the Department of Environmental Quality down. So that bill is already passed. So that, anyway.
Well, the bill has passed, but not the fee structure.
The league has
Okay.
nothing to do
Because
with
they
that.
have until September and they wanted public
I
input,
called
which
Bruce and he
you
said
can
the
maybe
league has
speak
nothing
to
to do with
that.
that.
The,
Bill is passed the fee structure. The league has been working and even went during the original bill had a fee structure in it. They worked to get that taken out during the legislative session and are now working with the different cities and everybody and DEQ to get a fee structure that is
so.
better across the board as opposed to
Okay.
just the
right.
one size fits all. So
Bruce
that
kind
is
of talked like it was a done deal and they were just
No.
here to explain
Fee
the
structure.
situation to him.
That's what he told me
No,
too.
and the mayor wouldn't have known about that had
The-
not the league.
no, the bill part is
So,
passed. The fee structure part of it
Still
was
open.
in the original bill. They got that taken out and they are, that's the part that's being worked on is the fee structure
So were
part.
you able to give some input to them today
Bittman went over to that.
and did?
What'd you learn, Bittman?
Sorry, I called you out on that.
Not for a diversion, but the environmental quality guys have the same problems we do with the state. They have a fund that's supposed to fund their operations based on revenue they generate. And then the state comes into that fund and takes 400,000 off the top and dumps it over in the general fund. So
That's
Yeah.
nice.
whatever happens with DEQ, whatever fee schedule they pass, it looks like our rates to use the Bullock pit will increase. The county's rates to have DEQ inspect their pit will increase. And when the county's rates increase, our tipping charges will go up. So it's going to cost us all more money.
One last thing is, one of the charges was something like $57,000 in dining in restaurant fees. And I thought, well, okay, that's $1,000 a week. Who is eating that? And I thought, well, okay, some of those may be considered by the league to be legitimate things where you take a congressman out to feed him, to talk to him about the bill you want. I find that reprehensible that we're paying someone with our money to bribe to persuade, lobby the people that should be, our guys listen to us. We don't need to, they do what we need to do. I don't like the idea of using tax. I don't like lobbying at all. But the fact that we're taking this money to lobby people that should know better is reprehensible to me.
Did you get a couple of correspondence unsolicited from people?
I received a letter from the former mayor of Panguitch, and a discussion with the former mayor of Cedar City saying just in their opinion, after their service, they realized it had been a big waste of money. So with that, I make a motion that we suspend for 1 year our membership with the Utah League.
Can I just finish making the couple of points? Because we kind of got off track before
Sorry.
you finished that.
So,
I just wanted to just mention, since you had brought up as far as the training piece of it.
Yeah.
I just attended the one in April, and I was just going to recite a couple of examples of the training.
Okay.
I didn't go to all of these because obviously you can't attend, but it's not just new official training. You had a full legislative recap on the bills affecting any city and town, budgeting, trails, building, planning and zoning, lawsuits, legal pitfalls for cities and officials, land use issues. Those are just a few of the things. So it's not just the training. And I visited with Mr. Bittman. He's totally qualified to do new official training, land use issues, but he did tell me he doesn't feel like the city is best served maybe by him doing the training on the financial end of it or the lobbying and that one. I also visited with Evan and John, both individually. They told me they totally support the league. It saves them during the legislative process. It is not feasible for our local officials to go up there for 45 days and try and figure out, we don't have the knowledge or the experience of what some of these bills, how they're even going to affect our city until after they're passed. And they just said that service is invaluable. And I just think that $16,000 a year is a small cost to the city to pay for the lobbying, the training, the weekly emails, the notification to the mayor when something's coming up that's going to affect our city. And after the time I spent, I felt like it was money well spent.
Okay. And just a reminder again, all of that training you mentioned is available anytime you want to go, whether we're members or not.
Right, but that's just the training aspect.
No,
That's-
well, no, the workshops, those.
No, that's what I mean, but we don't have any of the lobbying, any of the
Right,
weekly
right.
notifications, any of that.
And so I've
So-
expressed my opinion and
Okay.
so.
So for
My-
what it's
Are
worth,
there-
real quick, for what it's worth, and I asked her for permission, but Jenny Hendricks sent us all an email and she said she went to the training at the league for as far as the planning commission and had the training by Mr. Bittman. And she felt like Mr. Bittman, his training was far superior for what it's
But
worth.
that was just one piece, so, and it was. We all have the confidence
Yeah.
in Mr. Bittman to do that.
But he has
But
other-
she
other
also, I
jobs,
talked
too.
with Jenny after that email, and she said, I wanted to make clear that that was one small piece. I don't know anything about what else the league does, so.
If ultimately we want to hold them accountable, couldn't we do that by, our next dues are, I noticed that we make the payments in July. Could we hold them accountable and have them come and, I mean, we can tell them how disappointed we were with the results of the audit and how we know that they're trying to turn things around. Could we have them come and report to us and help us understand where they are and the strides they've made?
I think that's a great idea, but we could send a message now that we're going to withhold payment for a year and then they come in a year and report and we.
But the message that sends
and-
is maybe to them, but I think that it sends the wrong message to our partner cities across the state. And
I'm not one to go with the crowd. I think that it's sometimes good to make a point.
we can,
I make a motion that we suspend funding to Utah League for the period of 1 year.
I'll second that.
okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All against?
Nay.
Nay.
Okay. Then with that.
Motion
would
to
be-
adjourn.
Hey, pause for 2
Second.
seconds. Okay. All in favor?
Go jump on your dozer.
Perfect. Who is Paul. Who seconded that?
Yes.
Here's that, 3 guys. a father and two sons. All three of them.
Take that from you if I didn't have a stack that
No,
high right
well,
now.
I breezed through it. I'm going to read it. And
I
I can,
thought that was yours.
it is mine.
Oh.
It is mine. But I gave it to the
Oh, you
chief
gave it.
because I was slowly getting through
You
it.
haven't finished.
I haven't finished. I'll finish it and I'll bring it back.
Okay, maybe I'll have my stack done, or maybe I'll take it to the beach. I'm not going to a beach.
What's that?